Coach Little here to talk a little track and field as we wrap up the track and field season. Today being the state championship meet. I wanted to go ahead and um, talk about it while it's still everything sort of fresh in my mind and I'm still sort of in that track and field mode. Um, so first off, it's been a pretty long season for several of our athletes because seems like it's been quite a while ago now, but recall for the first time we did indoor track and field this year. And, we started practicing for that in late December and really didn't get started consistently until January. But still a continuous solid 5 months of training for those athletes who did indoor and also, of course, did outdoors. So, and that's not uncommon for the teams that do outdoor. It was just a new experience for us and not something we were real accustomed to. But I'm sure like I am, the athletes are ready for, a little bit of time to refresh, recharge, and let their bodies recover a little bit. So I'm going to talk about this season and overall and some of the good things that happened. And I'm not going to talk in most of the time. I'm not going to get real specific on athletes because there's a lot I could say about all of our athletes, honestly, because they've all had positives this year. They've all done good things. Going to stick more in more broad terms of how our team succeeded overall. Now, do want to talk a little bit about that to start with. Is when I talk about when we talk about track and field for our program, we do typically focus on individuals because we don't have the personnel and we don't compete in enough events to compete for those first and second place finishes, whether that be at a regular season meet, at region, at state. There are, I believe, 17 events in track and field. And right off the bat, we do not give our athletes the option to compete in 5 events. There are 2 hurdle events. There's the high jump, pole vault, and triple jump. We don't even offer those. So, we're at a disadvantage right off the bat because how do you get that first, second, third place finish in a meet? Well, it's by points. When your athletes finish first place in a meet, they get 10 points. Second place, they get 8 points. Third place, they get 6 points. So there's 5 events we have no one competing in, because we don't do those events. Then throw in the fact the last few years we haven't had any sprinters. So the 100-meter dash, the 200-meter dash, the 400-meter dash, we did have a couple kids do the 400 this year, and they did okay in it, but it's not the races they excel in. Then you have the 4x100-meter relay, the 4x200, the 4x400. Those are all races that you use for your sprinters. So there's 6 more events. So there's 11 of 17 events that the last couple of years we haven't even had, really kids in on a regular basis competing in. So really difficult to go for any team placements. When you have that many events, you don't have kids competing in. So, I always like to throw that out there because, in cross country, we can talk a little bit more about team awards as long as you have 5 runners because all 5 guys or girls are doing the same thing, all doing the same event. But in track, it's based on all of the events throughout the day, and there's just several events we don't compete in. So anyway, we had 9 athletes this year on the track and field team. We didn't, unfortunately, we didn't add any. We didn't grow in numbers like I would like to, but the positive is that we had 9 kids that were quality athletes. They all did good things. So we will start with talking about today just a little bit. Today, like I said, was the state championship. Last year, we had 4 entries in the state meet. This year, we had 6 entries in the state meet. So, that's something you always want to see. You want to look for that improvement, that growth, and we saw that. We competed today in the boys 4x100-meter relay. Braley in the 1600, Connor in the 800, Matt in the 3200, Bryant in the 3200, and Braley in the 3200. And obviously the highlight of today, if you follow along on social media at all, was the boys 4x100-meter relay team. at the state meet, the top 8 medal, and that was the boys' goal, and they finished 6th place and medaled in the state meet. And that is the first they're the first known boys to medal at the state meet in our program's history. So we know we've had girls do it in the past, but not boys. So obviously that's a nice accomplishment for them. I think individually, our athletes were not real pleased with their individual performances and their individual events. I think one thing, I think if you dive a little more into some of those performances, there maybe shouldn't be as hard on themselves as they think. But you always want athletes to not be pleased and to want to do better. So I think it's just important for them to remember that if they weren't pleased with their performance, they need to reflect on that, reflect on their race, reflect on the experience. What might they have done differently? Is there anything that they can control? Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, but that's something you want to think about and try to use the experience to learn, use the experience as motivation. And, we have several kids that were there today that are not graduating, and they'll be back next year going for a spot at state. And you just hope that they've learned from this experience and use it to, just try to improve themselves for next year. So, the state meet today, of course, was a big highlight for our season, and having that many kids compete in the state meet and that many entries. But we had a lot of other good things that happened this season, and that's the other thing for them to remember. They weren't real pleased with today overall. We had a season that I think they should really be proud of, and I'm going to run through some stats now that show that. First, one of our big accomplishments, our first ever known boys region champion. So, Matt Jones running the 3,200 meter run, and that was really big for us. You don't obviously only one person can win the region in each event. So, it was good to come away with one of those. We had 12 individuals medal at the region meet. That's the most ever known. That's boys and girls, but the most ever known, 12 medals at the region meet. We had several last year, but we didn't have 12. So that was a real positive day for us, a real historic day. If you look at our 9 athletes and their finishes throughout the entire season, I went through all of the meets from March through June, and we had more than 115 top 10 finishes. So our 9 athletes combined for more than 115 top 10 finishes. Shows you just the competitiveness, the in and out, week in, week out, they're being pretty competitive. And to go a little deeper, of those 115 top 10 finishes, 27 of those were first and second place finishes. So our 9 athletes had 27 first and second place finishes this season. I think another real bright spot. We set school records in 8 events. So new school records in 8 events. And, sometimes we set multiple school records in the same event throughout the season, but at the end of the season, we set new school records in the boys long jump, in the boys discus, in the boys 4x800 meter relay, in the boys 4x200 meter relay. That's not even an event that we competed in regularly this year. We ran it once. In the girls 1600 and in the girls 3200. So, obviously when you see yourself setting school records, it shows the growth and improvement of your program. And that's one of the things that we talked about in the beginning of the season we wanted to see, and it's one of the things we obviously accomplished. Looking specifically at the boys' side, going into this year, our program only had 2 sub 5-minute milers. So Connor Snap and Cameron Snap, the only 2 young men that had ran below 5 minutes in the mile going into this season. We added 4 names to that list this year. Matt Jones, Mike Jones, Grayson Miller, and Bryant Curtis all broke that 5-minute mark. That's kind of a big deal if you're a miler. If you're running that 1600, that's one of those milestone goals you want to hit. So really good to see 4 more guys break that 5-minute mark. So all of those things combined, and again, I hope I didn't leave anybody out. I'm actually recording this video for the second time because I realized on the first video I left out one of the names of one of our sub 5 minute milers. So one of the reasons I didn't want to go too specific on individual accomplishments was because we've had a lot of them on track. Cross country is one thing. It's hard to keep track in track and field. Like I said, even though we don't compete in them, there are 17 events in track and field. It's hard to keep track of everybody and what they're running and their accomplishments. So hope I didn't leave anything out. I'm sure I did, but a lot there to be proud of this season. And the other thing I want to touch on a little bit, this is not just specific to this season, but this year and last year, our 4x100 meter relay team, that has brought a lot of success, notoriety, and excitement to our program. And, we lose two senior runners to graduation, and Matt Jones and Mike Jones. And I only mention that because, had they not joined the team, we really wouldn't have had the personnel to start that event, to start competing in that event. And, last year and this year, obviously back-to-back region runner-ups. So 2 straight years they've qualified for the state meet automatically. And this year, like I said, I already mentioned medaling today at the state meet. And then if you look at last year and this year, all of their results combined from all their different races, they had 12 first and second place finishes. So 12 races, they finished first or second place. So they've just brought a lot of excitement to our program. I'm not sure that that's something we're going to be able to compete in next year. Again, I just think not sure we have the personnel coming back right now, unless we add, some members to our team that would, be a good fit for that event. I'm not sure we're going to be able to compete in that, but it's brought a lot of excitement to the track program, and something that if we don't get to do, I think we'll miss being able to see. So that leads me sort of into recruiting, and I mentioned it there. We need some more personnel pieces. We need some kids to run the sprints, and now we're losing distance runners in Matt and Mike, mid-distance runners. So we're looking for more kids for this program. I've sort of tried to do what I can do to get kids to join, but honestly, I think your kids and our athletes are the best ones to pull in other kids. Connor and Bryant pulled in Matt and Mike, 19 months ago. So, I know the Twins had several kids that told them, several adults that said, hey, you guys should be running track. But ultimately, it came down to their peers asking them to come join the team. Now, I do also always want to preface, everyone's not going to see the level of success that our kids right now who are on the team are seeing. Like I said, we've got a really good group of athletes, a really talented group of athletes. And yes, performing well and doing well is a primary goal in a varsity sport, but there are a lot of other benefits to joining track and field or cross country. And I want to talk about that just a little bit. If you're, an athlete watching or a parent watching, first of all, we always like to cater to what I would call the non-traditional athletes. If you don't feel like basketball, volleyball, baseball, softball, those kind of mainstream sports are for you, you should come give track and field a try. It's not just running. It's not just long running. There are distance races, there are sprints, there are jumps, there are throws. So, different areas and different opportunities where they can compete. But on the other hand, if you are an athlete and you play some of those other sports, track and field provides great conditioning, as does cross country. Great conditioning. So, that's a benefit. Track and field and cross country, I feel like both build mental toughness, and mental toughness is going to benefit, an athlete in our other sports, in school, once they graduate and get out in life. Build mental toughness. There's different ways that it does that. There are the different weather elements. Both sports you can be competing in 40-degree weather or 80-degree weather, and that is a challenge in itself. It's a little bit unique because both of these sports, in a sense, you're competing against your own teammate. And that has to, provide a different aspect mentally that you have to contend with as an athlete. You're usually not competing against your other teammates, but in this sport you are. So, and there are other ways that it builds mental toughness as well, but those are two ways. Another reason is because it is a challenging sport to do. To be really successful, it's hard. The other thing that I feel like is a selling point is, I mean, we've just have such a positive positive team support and positive team chemistry right now. We have been blessed the last 2 years, and really the whole time we've had track and field, but specifically the last 2 years. I mean, we've had a great group of kids. They work hard in practice. I don't have to stay on them about their work in the classroom. We don't have discipline problems in school. I don't hear about them getting in trouble outside of school, out in the community. So I would like to think that will continue, that you will be joining a team that has that positive culture that we really want to focus on. I mean, winning championships and getting medals and all that stuff. Yes, that's important, and it is sort of obviously a prime goal as a varsity sport, but just as important for us is our team culture and wanting kids that do things the right way. And I can't stress that enough. So, if you're a parent or an athlete that is looking for a different experience, I would strongly consider, joining cross country or track and field. But I don't want to mislead anyone in that it's easy, because it's not. It is hard work, especially if you want to do well. But on the other hand, I've always said and always felt that, I mean, yeah, everyone has a potential or a ceiling, maybe, but in running, especially, you control your destiny and you control how much you get out of it. How much you get put into it is how much you get out of it. In other sports, yeah, you can work on your own, but at some point, for the most part, you have to rely on your teammates. Most of the events in track and obviously in cross country, you can excel individually without your team excelling. So, I would encourage people to consider joining us. So wrap up, talk about the transition to cross country. Those track and field athletes who do cross country, they will take a couple weeks off. Some of them will take 2. If they're a little younger, they might take 3 weeks off. I've given everyone a summer training plan, so that includes their time off. And when they come back training, most of them are coming back anywhere from the 17th to the 20th to start their runs for cross country, because that summer training is so important. It's really important to get that base training down. I know that you hear a lot about not doing the same sport year round, and that certainly is valid and true. But one thing is, track and cross country, while people don't see it as 2 different sports, it is. The training, while similar in some ways, there are differences. So they're not doing the exact same training all year round. But if you ask any runner, whether it be a high school runner, a guy in their 30s, a woman in their 50s, who, I think they would tell you, if they take more than a few weeks off, you're going to regress. You're going to lose what you've built. So you, as a runner, you almost have to go year round. But with that said, the rest in the season is very important. You want to let your body recover physically and mentally. So strongly encourage your kids, as much as you encourage them to do their summer training, encourage them to take that break from running. Now, they can do other things. They should continue doing core, maybe not as much, but, do a few sets of core a week. Bike, go out and bicycle, go to the weight room and bike, go to the pool and swim. You want them to be active. You don't want them to sit there for 2 weeks and do nothing. We want them to be active, but we want them to work other muscles. We want them to do things other than running to stay active. And yeah, they can have some rest days, obviously, but don't do nothing for 2 weeks. We want them to stay active. So, cross country, we have a couple training sessions scheduled the week of June 20th before the dead period, just to make sure everyone is out and have started their summer training. We're looking for a couple more cross country runners. We'd love to have 7, all right, at least 7. And right now we have 3 returning and 2 new people who haven't ran cross country before, who have signed up to say they're running cross country. That would give us 5. That would give us enough for a team, but we'd love to have a few more. So if you're something you're thinking about, join us there on June 20th if you can. If not, we start our full practices after the dead period in July. Reach out to me or reach out to another cross country athlete, and we'll get you set up, because it is important that you come into July having done some running. So kind of that base training done. So it's going to do it for today. Exciting track season for us, I think. Really proud of what we accomplished, and we'll take a few weeks off here and transition and get into cross country here in just a bit. So I thank everyone for their support this season, the parents for their support and getting their kids, to practices and to meets. Thank Coach Snap and Coach Jefferson for their help this season, and we're looking forward to cross country season. Everybody take care.